Hello everyone, welcome once again to the Tech Convo Podcast with me, your host Chims Batho. And today we are at the Zambia National STEM Foundation. Yeah, and I'm joined by Mr. Mukosha, who is the project coordinator, right?
Project manager.
Project manager, yes. So, Mr. Mukosha, welcome to the Tech Convo Podcast.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Yes, the pleasure is ours, and thank you for having us here. So, as we start our podcast, we just love you to introduce yourself and also tell us a bit about this organization that you are representing.
Okay. So, as already mentioned, my name is Mukosha Molivo, and I serve as a project manager here at the Zambia National STEM Foundation. I joined them last year in October, so it's been a good 3 months or so. Then, with regards to what we do as a foundation, so as the name itself entails, we're a STEM foundation. STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics.
Yes.
So our goal is just to promote this in Zambia.
With regards to the National STEM Foundation, when was this foundation established?
So it was established in 2018, April, somewhere there.
2018. And we'd just love you to tell us a bit about the vision that you have as an organization and where you see STEM in Zambia. And yes.
Okay, so in as much as we try to promote STEM in Zambia, our focus is not a broad focus, but we try to streamline it into something specific.
Okay.
So our target are the underprivileged in society. So it's with them that we try and promote STEM. For instance, it's those who live in rural areas that we try and focus on. Then the other group is young girls.
Yes.
Because the stats speak for themselves that when you're looking at STEM subjects, there are more males as compared to girls.
To the girls.
So our vision is for every girl out there to be not only interested but also involved in STEM, and that no one is left behind, especially people who live in rural areas.
Yes. And I've been following the Zambia National STEM Foundation for quite some time on social media.
Okay.
And I would say you're doing a very commendable job in terms of the initiatives that you put across and involving, like you've said, girls. And then we know that in terms of STEM, for a long time it has been male dominated.
Yeah.
Yes, but right now the narrative is changing and switching, because I would say for me, I'm in computer science, and I've seen quite a number of females coming up and doing amazing things. Yeah. And it's through initiatives like and foundations like the Zambia National STEM Foundation that are helping to foster this. So can you tell us a bit about some programs that the STEM Foundation is currently working on?
Okay, so as you are aware, this is January.
Yes.
This is the start of the 2025.
Yes.
So most of the projects, we only have one that's currently running, because last month was the close of the project that were running last year. Then we have got other ones that are yet to be confirmed and upcoming ones. So the ones that I can tell you is some of the projects that happened last year.
Yes.
So I had mentioned that we have an ongoing project. So that I'm sure you may have seen it. It's a Younger Fellowship.
Yes, in fact, we had a guest from the first cohort that you had here, from the Younger Fellowship, yes.
Nice. So the whole idea there was to identify students either in uni or in college who are involved into STEM, because that's our area.
Yes.
And then wanted to provide them with financial support as number one. Number two, mentorship.
Yes.
And number three, training them to be to be people that are involved into business.
Yes.
So that was the motive behind that Young Fellowship. Another one that we had was the FNB cohort. So we had young boys and young girls. Majority, of course, were young girls. From the youngest was 12 and the oldest was 17.
Okay.
So it was it was a project that ran in April, August, and in December they graduated. So the goal was to teach them three things: mathematics, electronics, and web development. So it ran throughout those 3 months, and the graduation was held last month right here at the foundation. So these are just two of the many projects.
Yes. And these are very amazing projects because looking at if we are trying to raise a future that is involved in STEM, I think going to schools and, like you've said, the youngest was 12 years old, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is amazing because for most of us, you find that the times we started maybe learning web development or anything like that was at a later stage in life. But for when people start at a very young age, that's very impressive. And talking about projects like that, for future projects that are coming up, how does one get involved? Let's say a child who is interested in STEM, maybe they're into tech, maybe they're into mathematics or engineering or science, and they would love to participate. How can somebody get involved in these programs?
Okay, so how the foundation runs is that we have specific projects where we get to partner with an institution. And then we have our own internal programs that are run as a foundation. So, for instance, our hub is open 24/7, Monday to Friday.
Right.
So anyone is welcome to come and learn about STEM. So there's that separate group of us as people that can just come and visit the hub and learn something. Then we have these projects where we get to partner with an organization, for instance, like Yango as well as FNB.
Yes.
So in that particular case, there will be an application form that will be sent out. There will be so that will be sent out, and those that are interested can get to apply, and once picked, they can be part of the project.
All right. Okay. So, like for the listeners, those who are interested in STEM, like he said, most of the projects, if they are partnering with an organization, usually you send application forms online, right? That
Yes.
the person can fill up and then get to participate. So, can you tell us some of like the impacts or success stories that you recently had? Maybe I'll give an example of. I know you've talked of the Yango Fellowship and the FNB; those are like good success stories, but maybe something else as well, like another success story that you've recently achieved as an organization.
So one that stands out. I can give you an example. Amongst the projects that we had last year, we were focusing on girls, as I said, because that's one of our main areas that we focus on. So we had pupils from Kablunga girls.
Yes.
Last year when we started, they were in grade. One was in grade 12, and the other 4 were in grade 11. So we worked with them, trained them, and mentored them. So they came up with an application that's 2-in-1. It's both an educational app as well as an agricultural app. Now we helped them to come up with this project, and I'm happy to say that they pitched that project in various institutions, and they loved it. And just last year in December, they traveled to Mauritius, where they represented Zambia in a competition. Though unfortunately they didn't win, but just that exposure is enough for the young girls. And as a consequence of that, they were also invited to go to Ghana and present the same project. So this year they'll be traveling to Ghana. So that's one of the success stories that we have as a foundation, and something that we're proud of.
Yeah, that's something that even the nation Zambia is proud of, because young girls representing us in Mauritius, and then, like you've said, even if they didn't win, it's not really a bad thing, because we are looking at, as a country, that's when we are maybe venturing into
Yes.
STEM and also these things. And then the exposure that they got was very big, and the fact that they were even identified from there and invited to present a project somewhere else, that's also very commendable. And I think in the future, with time, these are the people who will be able to develop like way bigger systems that will
Exactly.
even win international competitions. And so that's a very good success story. Then, looking at the organization, and since you've started, can you tell us a bit about some challenges that you've faced through trying to promote STEM and involving the young girls as well?
Okay, so in terms of the challenges, I think I can describe them in two. There's a culture that we have as Africans, and in particular as Zambians, where we feel that STEM isn't something that can reward an individual with money at the end of the day, because parents send their children so that they can be able to work and make money. So you'd find that if a child gets good grades, they would instead pressure them to do a program like law, a program that's safer in terms of them getting a job and not necessarily what the child actually gets to want. So you'll find that if a child tells a parent that I want to study, say, computer science, they don't view it as a career that will result in the child having a job. So, and as such, you find that parents will discourage the child. So that's one of the challenges that we get to have as a foundation, the attitude and culture that we have in our country. The second challenge is commitment. People are very good at saying yes at first. But then if you tell them that the cohort and this training is going to run for 3 months, you find that the first month they'll be very committed. Then after some time, they'll just get to tire out. So whilst you had 50 that started, only about 20 get to finish that whole program and course. So there's that level of commitment from the people that we are seeing.
Okay. So yeah, and talking about the culture, I think it's normal for, I think, in a lot of communities that we have, especially for you, since you are targeting the underprivileged communities. So you find that the purpose of sending a child to school is so that they can help out the family, and then they don't want to take a risk because they would say, if you do this course, where are you going to find a job, who's going to pay you, and things like that.
Exactly.
But so you'd find that people are discouraging children, like you've said, computer science and even other technology based careers, or even STEM related careers. So that's a very major challenge. And then when it comes to commitment as well, I think, like you've said, it's very hard for people to stay committed. Yeah, it's very hard. You know, the motivational factor for most people is usually maybe money, and then if they are going to put themselves into something, you'd find that only when starting, and then eventually they'll start saying, okay, let's say it also comes back to the same culture thing, because you're working with young people, so you'd find that the young person will be told that, oh, maybe where you are going, what are you going to come back with? So they don't look at the knowledge that the child is getting, but they are looking at the benefits that they can have in terms of money. So now,
just to add on what you said, so you find that they often get to focus on the reward, which they want to be in form of money, where they'll think to themselves that if I sit down for 3-6 months having this training, what financial reward am I going to get? And that's the thought that as a foundation we are trying so hard to at least change in people. At times, all that you need is just a knowledge, not necessarily money being attached to that. Money will always come later on. But if we can first focus on learning and acquiring that skill, that then puts you in a place where it will expose you to having money, that is going to be better. So if we change the narrative, instead of thinking of always what's the reward that I'm going to get, but we focus on learning and acquiring that knowledge, it will be easier for us to grow from there.
Yes, exactly. And that's a very major point. First, the knowledge, and then with the same knowledge, you're able to make money.
Exactly.
Like the example you gave of the girls at Kablonga, if they looked at money, I don't think they would have been able to travel as well as being exposed as the exposure that they got. So yes, and so how do you see STEM growth in Zambia? Like in the next maybe 5 years or 10 years, do you see STEM being appreciated? Do you see us reducing on these challenges that you've spoken about, and people beginning to accept STEM as something that will push our nation forward?
Well, the good part, something that we have all seen in Zambia is the emerging of social media. I mean, for instance, just like this podcast that's there.
Yes.
So you find that even children at a very young age are being exposed to science and technology. So the beauty about that is that it raises curiosity in them. They want to learn how things work, which is basically STEM, trying to understand how different things work and operate. So there has been that growth that's been happening in Zambia, also with social media and the like. So see, in 5 and 10 years from now, we can tell that we'll be better off as we are now. Most people will now be aware that, okay, there's something that's known as STEM and it involves A, B, C, and D, and I want to be part of it. So there's that growth that's coming up.
And how do you see schools embracing STEM? Because I know that we've got schools that are considered to be STEM schools, right, here in Zambia. But how do you see them embracing STEM education, as well as these other schools that are not considered to be STEM schools? And I'm sure you've interacted with a lot of education institutions. Do you see them promoting STEM programs in their schools in terms of maybe clubs, for instance, coding and also STEM clubs?
Okay. So the good part is that clubs have always existed, especially like in secondary schools, be it government or private. But what has not been there is STEM-focused clubs. So, because I remember growing up, you'd find the scripture union. In as much as you'd have jets, there was only jets, if anything. So, in terms of schools being part of that, that's both an issue of policy from the government, as well as just the interest from the schools. But what we are seeing is most of the schools, the only thing that they need is just you open the window for STEM for them, and then they see the possibilities that happens, both for the pupils that they have and how marketing STEM just helps to market what the school is doing. So that's the way that I see that schools can be open to having STEM program. It's just showing them the potential that STEM has.
Okay. So like in terms of, let's say we have maybe somebody from a school listening, and then they want to, like you've said, to have a club that is STEM focused and then very practical. How do they get involved? Can they get involved with the Zambia National STEM Foundation, maybe for guidance? Like you've said, sometimes schools might need you to show them a way, and then they can pick it up from there. So how can they get in touch and involved with you as an organization?
Well, as truth of the matter, first of all, let me admit that it's difficult for us to reach each and every school and know that, okay, this particular school needs a STEM hub. It's very difficult for us to do that. But we've made ourselves open. As I mentioned earlier, that our doors are always open. A pupil can walk in, a school can walk in and discuss with us. But some of the things that we try and do are outreach programs where we get to visit the schools. For instance, I was telling you about the girls from Kablong. That's how we actually got in contact with them. It was just a STEM outreach when we went to the school. So if a pupil is listening and they would like to join the STEM hub, they can send us a message on Facebook, go to our website, or even text me directly on Facebook. I can respond and we can have a conversation from there.
Okay. So all they have to do is just get in touch and then see how you can work together.
Yeah.
All right. We've had a very good conversation. Yeah, I think we've exhausted much of the things that we should talk about. So I would love to say thank you for joining us on this podcast. We really appreciate your presence here. Yes, and as we finish up and wind up, do you have any last remarks that you can just share with the audience?
Okay, yeah. So when it comes to STEM, firstly, there is a fear that is attributed to it because they look at the type of subjects that are there. And I'm not going to lie, truth of the matter is STEM is difficult. It's not easy getting and passing, let's say like a program like CS, medicine. They require some hard work and commitment, but it's the knowledge that you get to learn. I'm not sure about you, but I've always been fascinated about learning how things work. Personally, I did electrical engineering from UNZA. Results, and just to slide it in, still waiting for the results to come and seeing if we graduate or not. But like just learning how something works. For me, I've always been curious about that. And if you are somebody that's equally curious to learn how the world operates and how tech is, then STEM is the route that you can go. It will open an endless window. And for those that still feel that they have to attach money at the end of the day, well, the good part is, if you have noticed, every other country in Zambia has not been left behind. They have seen that to move forward, you need STEM. People that drive an economy, people that have driven countries that have grown. For instance, if it's in the US, if you look at the companies that drive that economy, it's STEM-related programs that they had done. So yeah, just venture into STEM and you won't regret it. The money is definitely there.
Yes, and yeah, so there you have it, guys. Thank you for joining us once again. And remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel and continue listening to this podcast for more amazing conversations to come. From me, Chims, signing out. Thank you very much, Mr. Mkosha, for joining us.
It was my pleasure.
Thank you.